Sugar and spice and all that's nice. How about adventure and grit and a little spit? My next guest has led the way in female adventure journalism, being inducted into the Explorers Club. Huge freaking deal, you guys. Google that. She's been on camera for many programs, but most recently Travel Channel's Lost in the Wild. Through her travels, she has learned the art of connecting with others across cultures, languages, religions, and oceans, which she is also hugely enthusiastic about. Today, she's going to share about the amazing humans she's met traveling and her thoughts on creating those ditto moments, which we will explain. Research junkie, my sister in curiosity, gets a Scottish accent when she's drunk, Kinga Philipps!
That's probably the best intro I've ever had, by the way. Ever.
Well, my gift to you, my friend. I really hope to hear this Scottish accent one day.
Me too. I hope someone records it because I'm going to guess it's not very good. It actually probably doesn't even sound Scottish, to be honest. But in my head, it's phenomenal. I'm Sean Connery, like in his peak.
Does it ever happen sober?
No, it doesn't. I thought about that for a while and I was like, no, it never really has. No.
Oh, that's so funny. So your dad was a geologist, and you describe your mother as an adventurer. I really imagine them to be this interesting blend together, and because it's like the scientific method mixed with wild-eyed enthusiasm. How close is my imagination to the real thing?
That's pretty accurate. Now throw in the Griswolds and you'll have like the portrayal of my family and my childhood, including like the big blue van that we would always road trip with. And comical disaster would always ensue, including taking photos with roadkill, which was my dad's passion as a scientist to document everything with me standing by like dead coyotes, trying to smile. Yes, and my mom is a pharmacist, but also just natural, environmental, knows the Latin name for every plant. Like they're true. We're like some kind of a Wes Anderson movie, honestly.
That's beautiful. I feel like I've discovered my people. That is so me. Like people, I told you that when I was a kid, when people would come over to our house to see my mom, I would grab their hand and take them to my room where I showed them my seashell, rock, and pictures of fish collection. And I would go just painstakingly one by one. I just realized just now when you said about the plants that oopsies, I didn't grow out of that because when people come over now, I'm like, do you want to see my plants? Plant tour, that's the thing, right? Come on, follow me before they can even answer. And I'm like telling them the scientific names of my plants. So basically, I need like rehab or something.
I think you should make that an Airbnb experience. You know how they offer those now? You could do plant tours and give Latin names to all your plants. I would sign up for that. See, I'm the nerd that would be like, what is this? This is amazing. This girl's going to give me a tour of the plants and give me Latin names. I'm in.
Me too. Well, I'm glad that you share my enthusiasm in that. So back to your parents and like lessons learned. My dad taught me to measure twice and cut once. You saw I had to think about that for a minute too. So obviously that lesson I have to revisit it. And my mom taught me when things go wrong, just throw your hands up and go, isn't this exciting? It's an adventure. Are there some lessons from your parents that have crossed over to you and to your life that you've created now?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I want to say that I really need to listen to your dad's advice, especially when it comes to cutting jean shorts, because I do not measure twice and cut once. I'm like, this looks right. And then I've got like one leg to here. The other one is like a Daisy Duke. The other one is like a full pant. So I need to take your dad's advice.
Well, Kinga, all you have
My
to do is add a hashtag to that, and then people will think that it's a trend, and you'll be leading the way in the fashion industry.
Yeah. I become an unintentional billionaire on like my really badly cut jean shorts because they're the new thing and everyone's into it and all the celebrities are wearing it. Yes, let's go with that. Let's hope for that. Lessons that my parents have taught me. I would say that my mom, very similar lesson to your mom. My parents went through the Second World War in Poland, saw things that no one should ever have to see, lived through things that no one should ever have to live through. And my mom is the funniest, silliest, like kookiest in the best way possible person ever, because her life philosophy is you can truly get through anything with a sense of humor, and you have to find the silver lining and the best thing in everything in life. And that goes from war to COVID-19, all of it. And they maintain that. My dad was the person who taught me how to adventure and camp, and the epitome of the always curious scientist who needed to photograph everything from stratifications in rock formations, which now I find really charming. As a child, I was super embarrassed. He would cut cross sections in the sand and look at the different layers and be so fascinated. And I'm like trying to lay out. I'm like, Dad, there's like boys over there. And he's like, look at the stratification in the sand. Kinga, stand in this hole so I can show everyone how it looks. So he definitely was the epitome of the always curious and go forth and explore nature and culture and people and things and plants and all of it.
Did it take a long time to figure out that was going to be incorporated into your career, or did you know right out of the gate that those life lessons were going to go with you into adulthood in a way that you got paid?
That's a great question. And the answer is, I think one day you wake up and you realize that your parents were like the coolest people ever. And all along you were like, this is so embarrassing. I don't want to be anything like you. And when I was a kid, I wrote a letter to National Geographic saying, I want to work for you guys. And they wrote me back and they were like, stay in school, kid. And then I actually ended up working for them, and I did a show for them, and we got to tell that story repeatedly. But when I look back, my life was completely formed by my parents in this like Griswold adventurous travel lifestyle. But I think only in the last 10 years have I gone, oh, my parents did that. I totally credit them with that and planting that seed.
Yeah, hindsight is always 2020 when it comes to especially our parents and our careers. And yeah, that's funny. I also wanted to work for National Geographic. It was the second grade, and there was a stack. I lived in Plattsmouth, Nebraska, very far from any water. And there was a stack of National Geographic magazines, and I would obsess because we had designated reading time, and there was photos in there. And I was like, I want to be a photographer for Nat Geo. And I'm not really sure what happened. I think sometimes we grow up and we have worries and anxieties, and you've become self-conscious, and your little dreams, they just sort of get buried under there.
You can always dig them back out.
Oh, girl, we be digging. We be digging. So with your travel, you've been like a ton of places. What are some places that completely surprised you? They weren't at all what you expected.
Wow. I would say every place. There rarely is there a place that you go to and it matches what you have pictured in your head. For me, Africa has always been that. Ethiopia, traveling to Ethiopia for a show back in the day. I think we were there in 2011. And, Ethiopia is what you read about in National Geographics and what you see on the news. And the reality of a place is usually vastly different because you get the surface overview. You usually get the highlights and the lowlights of a place when you're reading about it or you hear about it on the news. When you get there, you get to dig into the details. Everything from the beautiful dress that people wear to the kindness of strangers to the food to the archaeology. Those details rarely get told in the highlights of media. And when you go to those places, that's what you see. You see the people for what they are on a daily basis, not on a media blast highlight basis. And all these places are so special. India was the same way. Zimbabwe was the same way. Even Fiji was the same way to me. You meet these incredible people, you sit with them and you drink kava and you have a fully different experience than one you could ever have reading about it online.
So how did you connect with people in every country? Did you have like was it always over a meal, or how did you break that barrier, whether it was language or otherwise, to really find out what treasure was within them? Because I feel like that's what, when we travel, the treasure that we find are the people that we meet and the stories that they have.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think Obviously over a meal is a great way to sit and talk with people. And it's a bit of an icebreaker, especially if it's cultural food that you can discuss. But I always think a sense of humor is a great way to connect with people and to be able to laugh with them on a small scale or a large scale, and a silly little incident, just anything that allows you to connect with that person in an organic way. And there's always something, whether you go to someone's house and you see a piece of art that they have, or I'm a foodie, so if there is food to be shared, I want to talk about it, I want to know about it, I want to hear about how you made it, your recipe. Is it your grandma's recipe? Tell me about it, I want to meet your grandma. But that's, to me, the epitome of travel, and meeting these individuals who will climb a coconut tree and bring you a coconut and then tell you about all the health benefits of a coconut, which happened to us in the Caribbean while we were filming. And that turned out to be the highlight of that piece. This gentleman named Cornelius Douglas, still remember him, climbed up, brought me a coconut. Those magical moments with people where you get to catch them doing what they do on a daily basis and have a conversation with them about it, or learn something that is foreign to you. Meeting a little gentleman in Vietnam and his water buffalo, and he was like, would you like to pet the buffalo? Next thing you know, my sister and I are sitting on the buffalo taking photos. The buffalo's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And the guy's like, here, wear this hat, you'll look authentic, as he's plowing a field. Those are the people that you meet that you never forget.
I agree. And don't you, when I come back from travels, or even just not even going in other countries, but just, I feel like I have FOMO, like it's probably a clinical diagnosis. My husband tells me this anyway. But when I meet someone, I'm like, oh, I must know you. I must know what you're about. If you speak a different language, I must know this language. Hold on, let me grab Google. But then after I meet them and I discover all the stuff that you're talking about, these treasures of their lives and their stories and the quirkinesses of their personalities and their grandma's personalities, then I want everyone to experience that. I want them to know that. I want them to have the skills to see what I see and to experience that. It's like a vibration head to toe that you feel when you meet someone, and you feel like you're connected, even if you don't speak the same language.
Well, I think what you're describing, and you and I have talked about this before, is touching on people's passions.
Yeah.
And there is a word in our language, weird, which has always made me giggle a little bit, because weird technically has a bit of a negative connotation, right? Like, oh, that person's so weird. Like, you feel like high school kids would say that, like, oh, she's really weird. And then that weird person turns out to be like the coolest, most successful musician or artist ever, while everyone else peaks in high school. So in my mind, weird is a word that describes something that is unusual, that is worthy of curiosity. And the coolest and the most interesting people that I have met in all my travels, and I bet you would agree with this, are the people that when you start to dig and they carry their heart and their passions on their sleeve and they start to tell you about them, you are like, wow. I think I told you about the woman that I met on the National Geographic show who gifted me a glass eyeball, which I actually brought because I wanted to show it to you.
What?
I figured you would appreciate this. So the story that I told you before was that I was working on the show, and at the end of the episode, because we always had experts with us to authenticate the things that people would bring in, this woman gave me this glass eyeball. I'll send you like a tight shot of it too, because I want you to see the detail in it.
Yeah.
And told me the story about the turn of the century when there were two families that used to make these glass eyeballs because people lose eyes all the time. Gonna shoot your eye out, kid. And these were just this is probably really creepy if I do this, but
so
they're
cool
replicas.
And you would have never discovered that had you not dug in, which leads, so you said weird is a word. Another word is ditto, which I feel like, I don't know, I like that word, but I'll just tell the listeners what I used to say, like when you're speaking to someone and you're meeting them for the first time, the goal is to find the me too. They say, oh, I like dogs. Oh, me too. And you say, oh, I love canned tuna, which I don't, but let's just pretend me too. And you have that rapport. And so it creates, like, it breaks down walls of whatever they judge you as, and vice versa. But obviously, since the Me Too movement, those words they had a more noble purpose, and we have to let them go. So we're going to use the word ditto. But finding that ditto moment when you talk to someone, I feel like it's the beginning of that connection of breaking down what they think that you might be and vice versa.
I totally agree. And when people, I think, realize that you are open to hearing about their passions, that breaks down a wall. When I was telling you about the glass eyeball lady, the best compliment that she could have ever given me is after working on this episode with her, she came up to me and she said, "Hey, having gotten to know you, I feel like you would appreciate this. And I want to gift this to you because I'm really passionate about these glass eyeballs. I've been collecting them. And having gotten to know you, I feel like you're just weird enough to appreciate this." And I was like, "I am weird. Thank you so much for seeing my weirdness and appreciating it. I love the glass eyeball." So that was me. And like, those are the types of people that I always want to come to me. I want people to come and tell me about the bunny museum that they run. There's actually a woman who runs a bunny museum.
Oh, wow.
Or, have a collection of fossilized mammoth teeth or whatever it is. Like, I want to know that because I will be excited about it.
Agreed. I'm with you 1,000%. And I'm intrigued with your approach because the anthropological approach I completely identify with. The journalism approach, I don't know much about. And so the work that you do, especially in the Lost in the Wild show that you're doing right now, it's like, for those who haven't watched it, it's like a true crime travel. Is that about right?
Yeah. It's like a true crime podcast come to life with boots on the ground in exotic locations.
Boom. There you go. Spoken like a professional. That's exactly right. So what's the interplay between the part of you that's anthropological and that's like, be my friend, show me your glass eyeball, and the part that's like, tell me the truth, where's the dead body? Like, how does that interplay work in your work?
I think it works beautifully. So my background is I have a degree in broadcast journalism and I also minored in anthropology. So those two were always big, big highlights of mine. And to me, they work together perfectly because if you're doing hard investigative journalism, which I've done a good bit of in my career, you're not going to get very far coming in being like, tell me where the dead body is. Like that is what you see on TV and it rarely works. Having conversations with people. And I'm not a police officer. Like, I'm rarely first on scene, actually never first on scene to ask where the dead body is. I hope I never am. So the kind of digging that we do for shows like Lost in the Wild or for Legend Quest or Nat Geo stuff, it's more of a conversation with people. And that's where the anthropology comes into it. And that's where the glass eyeballs come into play, because the more you can relate to people and the more that you can meet them halfway and where they actually think that you're interested in who they are and their culture, in their story, you're going to get a lot more information. So from Lost in the Wild, we went all over the world. We were in Zimbabwe, Galapagos, we were in Panama, in Brazil, we were in India, we were in so many different, Malaysia, Philippines, where you are going to, in addition to the research and the deep digging of the journalism that we had to do for all of our cases, because we were investigating missing persons, you also have to layer in the culture and the uniqueness of that region, even folklore and legends, like that played a part in what we were doing. So you have to be open to all of it. And then the people that you're with, that you're meeting along the way, that are going to help move your story along, you've got to find common ground with them and be able to converse with them. For TV, obviously that makes better TV, but also just for investigative purposes, you want to have a rapport with someone.
That makes total sense, because the person that could give you the best tip, the best clue, might not be the one that is throwing themselves at you. And so you need to have that eye for who here maybe wants to talk to me, but I need to draw them in and draw out the information that I need in a way that's meaningful, culturally respectful, that sort of thing.
That's exactly right. And a lot of people preferred to speak to us because we were step 2 in a 3-part investigation, basically. So first would be the police, the official investigators. Then we would come in. We're not police officers. We're not affiliated with any kind of authority. And then, so we would come in, we would have conversations with people. We would oftentimes get more information than the authorities were able to get for exactly the reason that you said. We were more relatable. We weren't like coming in there, flipping badges and saying, tell us where the body is. We were having conversations with people. And then the third step in Lost in the Wild was we were kind of like unsolved mysteries that we would then put it out to the audience and hope that someone comes in with information that we weren't able to get.
Have they yet?
We've gotten information on some of our cases. I think as the show was aired in the US and the UK and Australia. I think that as the show starts to air internationally in some of the locations where the cases took place, that's where we'll get more information. But off the Panama case and the Zimbabwe case, I have gotten emails from people with like little tidbits of information. Some more valid than others. I got one where the devil apparently told him the truth. I was like, and I will not be responding to you. So you get some of those, but you also get some very legit tidbits that you can pass on to the authorities then.
I love that. I love that because it's so unexpected. And that's part of the treasure part, because treasure is something you find and it kind of surprises you even though you're looking for it. And that's how I feel about relationships in general, but like when you talk to people, it comes out. And I was hoping that you could share a story that maybe illustrates that by way of unexpected kindness or, renew our hope in humanity, Kinga. Like, can you think of a time that you were traveling, or maybe even not traveling, but something where you just unexpectedly were the recipient of great kindness by someone who didn't really even have to give it?
Absolutely. You know where we found some of the kindest people to be, and they're amazing people all over the world. But when my sister and one of my best friends and I went to Cambodia, the people there were so nice that we kept thinking we were being taken advantage of, because we're like, no one's that nice. Like, no one's really this nice. What is your motive? No, they were in fact actually that nice. And a case in point, I don't like to pre-book things when we travel because I like to go where the wind takes me. And if something's exciting, you want to stay longer. If it's not, you want to leave early. So I don't pre-book hotels. So we would basically jump, and every night we would book our hotel. And we got to Siem Reap, where Angkor Wat is, which is spectacular, but it's very touristy and oftentimes busy, especially during the time of year that we were there. And we came into this little hotel and we tried to book a room for the night. And the woman at the front desk said, well, we don't have any rooms, but if you leave me your information, when are you going to come back? I'll try to source something for you. And we were like, okay, because we were going to see Angkor Wat. So we left her our information and just kind of almost didn't come back because we thought, well, what's she going to find for us? We came back to that hotel because we couldn't find anything else, just to see if she had gotten something. And she was like, oh, yes. So I got you a room in the hotel next door. I just went ahead and paid for it with my own money. So you guys can just reimburse me. And we were like, I'm sorry, what? Like, what if we didn't come back? Like, this hotel wasn't affiliated with her hotel. She had gone over there, gone above and beyond, asked, has found that they had one room left, didn't want us to lose it. So she paid for it with her own money. And like, who does that? Like, it was such a beautiful story. And that happened to us 2 or 3 times. The people there were amazing.
That's so awesome. It really does make you go, people are good. People are good. You just got to find the good. I stayed at a hotel in Tennessee for a shoot for a week. And the hotel was owned by an Indian family and managed by an Indian family, and they lived there. And every day I would kind of chat with them. And one day we were chatting about food, and I was talking about how I love to cook I love food. Love Indian spices. And I was naming some of the spices that I like to cook with. And they thought that was really curious that a blonde white girl knew what garam masala was. And so the guy at the desk, he's like, you know what? I'm going to get my mom to cook for you. And at that time, we didn't realize, because we hadn't had the food that was being catered, but I wasn't really able to eat the food that the company I was working for was catering because it had a lot of dairy in it and yada, yada. His mom cooked for me every night. I got homemade Indian food every night, and they would like sneak it to me. And then I'd like run upstairs and eat. And I said, I have to, what can I do for your mom to like show a, kind gesture back? And he said, oh no, hospitality is part of our religion. So you have to accept this. And I was like, whoa, that's major.
Isn't that beautiful?
It
People in India are lovely. And the food there, by the way, when we were there filming in the Parvati Valley, I split a pair of pants. Like,
oh
I don't
no,
care. I'm going to keep
no.
eating. This is delicious. The best food in the world.
You knowingly consented to split pants because you're like, the food is so good.
Food is so good. Totally worth a pair of pants. Totally fine. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I know we're running short on time, but I don't think we can have this a proper conversation without bringing up your work as a shark ally and your love for the ocean. So spill the beans.
Well, Shark Allies is a nonprofit organization that I think is one of the coolest and feistiest nonprofits out there as far as ocean conservation goes, started by Stephanie Brendel. And we've made amazing strides. I mean, she was the first person in 2010 to enact an all out ban on shark fin sale, trade, and possession in Hawaii, which was the first state in the US. And several others followed suit. That is happening in Florida right now. So we are now fighting the fin trade in Florida, and that is almost passed. And for honestly, a scrappy little organization composed entirely of most of women. Our board members are all women. We have other allies who are men, but it's just women who are super passionate about the ocean and conservation and educating people about apex predators and their impact on ocean health. And it's been a fun ride to be a part of it with these totally badass ladies.
That sounds amazing. So do you ever get to do like tagging or anything like that where you're up close with the animals?
So I do a lot of shark diving, and we'll lead trips out to Isla Guadalupe where the white sharks are. We will do tagging with scientists. So usually as a journalist, I'll often observe that, film it, and then put content out with it. And I also try to include shark stuff in all the shows that I do. So for instance, with Shane and Ramona, when we were in St. Croix, we have friends in common. We did a piece about going down and working with the sharks and teaching them how to eat lionfish, an invasive species. And that was really interesting. And that was really beautiful to get to incorporate because all of us have a passion for ocean. So we got to put that out there. But we've worked with some of the best scientists in the world, Mauricio Hoyas, Giannis Papamastatu, who's actually out of Florida International University. And these are the people that I really lean on for the science side of things because I'm not a scientist, but I do a lot of media stuff with sharks and try to educate people about why they are not everything that is portrayed in movies like Jaws and all the other Hollywood flicks out there.
Preach, girl, preach.
Pretty cool creatures. I like them.
Yeah, me too. I'm a fan. I'm intrigued, but have a healthy dose of respect/fear. But I feel like, yeah, more to come on that for sure. Well, where can people follow you and your many adventures on social media, and where can they find your show Lost in the Wild?
Lost in the Wild it's on demand. It's on Amazon, Hulu. It's all over. Also the Travel Channel app. It's been airing on Travel Channel and Discovery, but I think probably the easiest place for people is Amazon, Hulu, and YouTube. And then all my stuff is just under my name, Kinga Philipps, on all the different social platforms out there, from Instagram to Facebook to what else is out there. I don't do TikTok. I don't really understand.
I don't understand TikTok. TikTok makes you feel old, but
Dance. So no, just
so
be
no,
embarrassed.
yeah. Well, thank you, lady. I so appreciate talking with you. I'm so glad we met, and I hope that listeners will feel inspired to connect, even virtually, while they're quarantining with as many people as they can and many cultures as they can. So that's a wrap, girl. Great job.
Ditto.